Megan, I'm still seeing the presenter view.
Yep, that's the next button.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
There
And
we go.
hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Today's presentation, it's not either or, it's how paid media and direct mail work better together. We're going to kick off here in just a few minutes, but I want to give everyone some time to start logging on. If you've got time as you're logging on, we'd love to shout out your organization. Let us know where you're calling in from. And to do that, you can use the chat function in the Zoom control slides. We are also recording today's webinar. We will be sharing the webinar recording and the slides via email after today's presentation. And if you have questions that come up throughout today's webinar, feel free to use the chat like you're doing now to share your organization, or you can also use the Q&A feature. And we'll spend some time at the end of today's session to answer all the questions in today's Q&A. And I'm seeing Texas Tech University Libraries, North Shore Animal League of America, Public Radio of Tulsa. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining today. Idaho Public Television. Hello, Veronica. And STCA, another one from Texas. Thank you all so much for joining today. We're really excited for today's session. And just a little bit about AGP. We are passionate about helping nonprofits turn missions into movements and supporters into champions. We're a strategic partner to mission-driven teams who want more than short-term wins. And we have deep expertise in advertising and media, audience experience and research, data management, web app and AI development, mid-level expertise, email, and more. And we are super proud to partner with leading organizations across the following sectors. We work with hospitals, public media, health and human services, food banks, education, professional associations, and more too. And we are really excited to have Liz Lowe, our VP of Client Relationships, and Laura Henriksen, our Senior Vice President of Integrated Media Solutions, here with us today. Liz, care to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Lowe. I'm the VP of Client Relationships over here at AGP. I've been in this space for a little over 20 years. My bread and butter is food banks, but I'm an omnichannel strategist. Really excited to talk to you guys about all of the great things that we've been doing and things that you can implement in your own programs. Laura.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Henriksen. I lead the Integrated Media Solutions team here at AGP. So we are managing paid digital media for organizations across sectors, work with Liz quite a bit. And so we're really excited to present this topic to you today. I'm going to pass it back to Liz.
We're going to get right started. We have quite a bit to pack into this next hour, but this is a really good representation of how all of our donors are experiencing everything that we do today, right? There is no single channel that a donor is getting anything from you. None of us get our anything that way anymore, right? It's very much a omni-channel world for us, and so we have to make sure that we're thinking the same for our donors. They're getting information from your website, from email or texting, from your events, from your social, if you have a mobile app, any chat or messaging, your mail, obviously some online paid advertising as well. So it's a really good start to really change the mindset of one donor, many moments, and a seamless connection. So the better job we do making sure that every experience they have with your organization, the better that they're going to really feel a part of your organization, and it's going to be seamless. A real good quote that I came across the other day says, "You never change things by fighting against the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete." And that's really our job here, right? We want to make sure that we are where our donors are at the right time, making sure that we are in their preferred channels and communicating with them in their preferred channels, not trying to put them back into maybe an older channel. But true omni-channel donor experiences is what we're all really looking for here. And it's the way that the future is going to go. And this is how you find those younger donors too. And one of the best ways to do that is making sure that you are collaborating within your entire fundraising team. We all know that a lot of our teams are made up of marketing, your fundraising or your annual gift team, your major giving officers, and then if you're lucky enough, you'll have a whole team of data and insights. And if all of those are not talking to each other, if you do not have shared goals, shared data, you will never be stronger together. So one thing that I really hope you take away from today is that really working in tandem across all teams is how omni-channel programs grow. We've learned this at AGP as well. As we keep having reiterations of how our teams are built and how all of our systems work together. And the most successful we are those teams that are really tight and they're really working together from the beginning of whatever our strategy is, not trying to piecemeal things in, depending on whatever their production times are. So different teams, one mission, always going to be better together. So that's something that you really have to make sure that you're working on before you can have that true success in omni-channel fundraising. So how does it all work together? Having that integrated strategy, we know can be a little bit challenging at times, but like we said, it's really making sure that you're starting from the very beginning of what your entire strategy is and not doing it in stages, which seems to be kind of the historical way that it's always kind of been done. But having that coordinated reach and visibility, you really are going to expand your reach with paid media. Laura's going to talk quite a bit about paid media today, but know that everything works better together, and the expanded reach that you get out of that alone is going to be incredible. Make sure that you're staying present in between touches. Please don't think that everything is a one and done and you just move on. We want to make sure that all donors have that seamless story arc or personal outreach arc to make sure that everybody is not waiting for your next your next campaign to start. That was great. But just making sure that you're reinforcing everything across channels. Trust conversion and reinforcement. Again, as everybody knows, mail builds trust. It's the longest fundraising channel that we have. Paid media reinforces that trust. And then the consistency is really what's going to drive response. So if they're seeing things in multiple channels, that's really going to make sure that that's driving that response. And then sequencing and performance lift, sequence mail in media. And it is not always the traditional, hey, let's send that mail out first and follow up with digital. Goes back to that, let's talk about it at the beginning of the strategy. Maybe digital does need to be the first channel that ignites a campaign. It's just really making sure that you're talking about whatever the end result is and you're sequencing in the order that it is needed. Paid media and digital channels absolutely lift acquisition and retention. We'll talk about that in a couple slides here in a minute. And really make sure that you're measuring that total performance. Direct attribution is pretty much dead, guys. Like, I know that we're all trying to get to that evolution of saying it. I'm going to say it today. Direct attribution is pretty much dead. We all know that if you're living in an omni-channel world, it depends on whatever lever that donor pulled to have that direct attribution, but all of the rest of it is absolutely playing in sequence with this. So if somebody is getting a mail piece and then they get hit with a digital ad, or they receive an email and they Google you to go online and give, that doesn't mean that those prior 3 touches didn't work. It meant that you're doing it right and they are all working better together.
And so on this slide, I'm going to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing when you take that omni-channel focus that Liz was mentioning a couple minutes ago, just some of the trends that we're seeing when folks do that. And I would also say, I know we have organizations, a lot of different sizes, therefore a lot of different budgets here. And so you can really take this approach no matter the size of your organization or the size of your budget. Not surprising when we see things in a true omni-channel way, we do see those campaigns delivering some of our strongest results. And as Liz said, what we really are seeing a big trend on are direct mail and digital, whether it's paid media or email, really kind of working together. The second bullet, I think, is if you take one thing away from this webinar, I want it to be this: really strong collaboration across whether your program is happening totally internally, whether you have an agency partner, just making sure that folks collaborate across channels from the very beginning. Make sure that everyone understands the goal, what channel might be involved, how you might need to adjust the message slightly for an individual channel. Can you measure what you want to measure to determine the success that you agreed upon? When folks do that up front, every aspect of the campaign performs a lot more strongly. And this could even go if you're doing something internally and you're collaborating with like a marketing team and a development team. I think that same approach can apply. Email still has a role. We're going to talk mostly about direct mail and paid media today, but won't forget our friend email. It can be a little bit of an anchor of digital revenue, but really seeing significant growth with SMS and paid media when they're kind of like thoughtfully sequenced and included in a broader campaign really become major drivers of revenue. The beauty of digital is we can be very timely. We don't have super long lead times like sometimes our friends on the direct mail side, but it really can perform best then when it is really tightly aligned to a clear campaign moment. Is there an anniversary? Is there a major tentpole campaign? Is there an announcement or a breakthrough in research, depending on your organization? I think a good example of this would have been when, Liz spoke earlier about her focus on the food bank category, having our clients be ready when the SNAP crisis hit last fall. We had those campaigns ready. There are things we could get out more quickly in digital media than we could in other channels. But Liz will share some other great examples about that. And really, I think the last bullet there is programs that across our client sectors that are showing a lot of year-over-year growth are those that are kind of diversifying their channel mix, not focusing just on acquisition or just on renewal, really kind of sharing the love a little bit and kind of then focusing on what works the best is great. And then on the next slide, we have an example of some redacted data for a particular client that truly is one of the best examples of omni-channel thinking. This is a chart based on donors that we knew from source code data came in through paid media. But what this chart shows us is that these donors ended up giving multiple times within that client's fiscal year and across multiple channels. So this is just an interesting way from, if you're one of the people that likes data and charts like I do, this is a way to kind of show you how the revenue lift can really happen significantly when you're integrating those channels. So for example, if you look at the very bottom row, $498,000 was the amount of revenue specifically attributed to paid media sources for donors that came in through paid media. But those folks gave across other channels because the total revenue associated with those donors was over $613,000. Some of that was on direct mail, some of that was on email, and this is just a snapshot of one fiscal year. So you can imagine over time, it is really going to increase your revenue, increase the stickiness of your donors, because we know that multi-channel donors are some of the most valuable. And so that's another great reason why you want to very intentionally make sure that your direct mail and your paid media are truly working together. And now I am going to pass it back to Liz.
So omnichannel integration and program innovation really do go hand in hand. As a whole, as an industry, we really need to make sure that we're expanding the fundraising industry or strategy. So full funnel, digital first growth strategy. I think that's the number one thing that we all need to kind of focus on, is really making sure that we're evolving our models and our strategy. Typically, acquisition in the mail channel goes first, and then we have all of those KPIs that go along with it. What we're really starting to see is a very strong digital first growth strategy. So that means that we are leaning more on the digital channels, paid media being a very big lever. making sure that across channels, all of the messaging is the same. Everything is integrated to make sure that we are targeting to acquire, upgrade, and diversify revenue. So this isn't just a new donor strategy, right? It's also a fantastic way to make sure that we are upgrading the donors that we have, and we're really diversifying those revenue streams. It can come in through different channels, or we can have a real big focus on sustainers and getting that monthly giving, that recurring giving, to continue to grow, which all of us have learned recently that there's a huge opportunity there to make sure that we're focusing on those sustainers, especially my food bank friends in the audience. We had huge growth potential in sustainers and mid-level after this last SNAP emergency. So really making sure that you're using all of the channels in the best way possible to speak to donors where they are, to hit all of those buttons, to acquire, to upgrade, and to diversify. The really great thing about paid media is that it is very modern and it feels very modern, where direct mail can feel a little antiquated sometimes. So it gives us that, community centered creative that we can use across channels. AGP is a very community-centric agency. We really believe in the communities that are supporting each other. So being able to have that quick modern touch that looks like your community is super important. You can really make sure that you are optimizing your website. That kind of gets forgotten about when we talk about all of these things and strategy and all of that fun stuff. But making sure that your website is optimized, your donation forms are optimized. Extremely important to make sure that there's no friction points once we do get those donors to see an ad, or to be pushed online through your direct mail. And the one thing that we also found really great for food banks this year, and across other channels as well, is local influencers and ambassador activations to expand reach. We had a big concentration in food banks this year for this, and we've started reaching out with other nonprofits, not just in the food bank sector. We've had some environmental clients that have had a lot of success with this. And again, you can use all the different channels to really expand your reach here. Digital obviously being the number one channel, but making sure that you're thinking full scope, full strategy, and not just kind of siloing your own campaigns is going to be a huge cue to expanding your fundraising strategy.
Thanks so much for that, Liz. We just had a question come in on the fourth bullet here. What does CPDR mean?
Cost per dollar raised.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So this slide, the next few slides, we're going to show you some examples of what omni-channel campaigns look like, right? We all have an idea in our head of what they look like, but this is all of the channels that we can get to. So this piece had a mailed component, you can see on the upper left, with the reply card on the bottom left. And then across the top are 3 different emails. This was a timed campaign that we sent 3 different emails for. It was a match. We had social, we had paid advertising, and we had texting. And so it really made sure that we talked to all of the different donors in their file, in all of their different channels that we had connections to. Incredibly successful. You can really see how one channel is lifting another just by watching the timing of things. And I think that that's a good takeaway for everybody here too, is if you're really curious how your channels are all working together, watch your little lift moments when something goes through another channel. So obviously direct mail has a little bit longer of a leeway. We sent that out first, and then it was evenly timed with the paid advertising and the emails and the texting, and you could absolutely see lift when that happened. And I just saw a question. Can you speak to the role or effectiveness of text? Yes, please. I could have a whole webinar just on that. But so texting, I think that texting is what email used to be. You remember how we were all like, oh my gosh, it's just so intrusive. We can't use email. Look at where we are now. Texting is pretty much the same way. I truly believe that we're all attached to our phones, right? Like they are all right here with us at all times. It is the quickest channel that gets answered. But I think that the first thing that you need to think about if you are starting on the texting journey, or even if you've been on the texting journey for a bit, think stewardship first, and have a few stewardship campaigns to reach out to them. Think about warming up the audience, just like we did back in the day with direct mail, to really make them feel that they are part of the organization. that you're not just immediately reaching out in that channel with a, hey, can you give more of it's a great place for quick updates for news. It's a fantastic way to warm up an audience for a campaign that is coming. If you have a big match that is coming, you can send out some warm up text of, hey, be on the lookout for something in the mail or an email that you're going to get or a text that you're going to get from us in a week or so. And think of it as a lift channel while you really warm that audience up for it to be a good revenue stream. And it will become a good revenue stream. It's great in all of the tentpole campaigns. It is absolutely amazing anytime that there is an emergency that happens. It is the quickest way to get messages into the hands of our donors or our advocates or whatever your goal is. But do your research. You can reach out to one of us at AGP. We're happy to talk you through everything that we have learned about this channel as well. But I really, really recommend that you have that in your channel mix, because if you are not texting them, somebody else is. So keep that in mind too, because we all get these texts. I get them from other nonprofits as well. So it's just making sure that if it is not in your budget this year, just maybe start rolling in slowly in the next year or two. This slide, super exciting. So this was a digital first acquisition. Traditional is on the right where you send a letter, it has a reply device, may or may not have a premium in it. But this is one of our food bank clients, and they did a split test. We had the traditional acquisition with your typical letter, and then on the left-hand side, we had a postcard. And the postcard was the digital first acquisition. It had a QR code, it had a vanity. We were absolutely able to tell who gave because we had the mailed file. So anybody that did give online or gave through other channels, we know that they got that postcard for a good, well-loved match back. And so on the upper right, which might be kind of small for you guys, but you'll get this deck so you can see it. The traditional acquisition had a response rate of 0.26, average gift of $94, return on investment 29 cents. The digital first acquisition had a 0.52, which is a winner chicken dinner right there for me already. But the average gift was $119, which was significantly higher than the direct mail. And the return on investment was obviously incredibly better because it's just a postcard. It's not a big heavy mail package, right? And so the key takeaway for this is, number one, it did work. We can absolutely find newer, younger donors with a digital first acquisition. And the best part of it was that the average gift came in significantly higher than your traditional mailed acquisition, which is true with digital, right? Like we all know this. Winner, turkey dinner too. Very true. But typically digital average gifts are higher than your traditional direct mail. So that's something to really keep in mind. It's kind of a winner here that, we're trying to find those younger audiences. Everybody has been looking for these younger audiences for years, but we kind of continue to do the same thing and expected a different result. Well, we tried something different this year and it absolutely worked. So we'll be rolling out some more tests among other clients and other verticals, just to make sure that this indeed is still working for everybody and not just our food bank friends out there. Here's another example. This one's for driving donor engagement through urgency. We were turning awareness into action with Lambda Legal. We launched in urgent messaging in response to the inauguration and political challenges from the new administration. It included direct mail, email, Google Performance Max, Google paid search, and meta ads. And we had a 593% year-over-year increase in the new donor revenue the first 3 months of FY25, which was 115% year-over-year in total revenue growth and a 69% year-over-year increase in donations. And again, because we were in all of the channels that the donors have communications with us in. And so they all work as levers to make sure that we're getting that out as quickly as possible to drive awareness into action and see that incredible year-over-year increase.
So here's an example of an organization that really embraces omnichannel. And, one of the comments that I saw in the chat was, show some other sectors with kind of a harder message to sell. This is an organization that primarily focuses on cancer, but it's challenging because there are a million different organizations that focus on cancer, either research, patient care, something along those lines. And so it is a much tougher, more competitive space than one might think. This client, this was for a Giving Tuesday campaign, but I would also just caution that they approach every single month of the year with omnichannel. I think that's why, even in the face of all the economic chaos the last year or so, especially the last few months, our program is showing record year-over-year growth for this organization. And so it was really intentional. You can see similar color schemes, similar patient stories, similar tagline. The match is referenced. You can see it includes all of the channels. It includes things that are kind of upper funnel, like CTV, things that are very lower funnel, like we talked about SMS, direct mail. And we also have an email. It was really important as well. We had the fundraising ask, but as Liz mentioned, this client is also very smart and intentional to be stewarding their donors and having engagement activity all throughout the year, so that when we do ask for money, we get it. And this was all very smart collaboration and targeting as well. A really great example of collaboration between paid media and direct mail specifically, that this client has done, and a lot of our other clients are starting to do as well, is for both acquisition and renewal, we are doing co-targeting of the list. So if you are doing an acquisition mailing and you are renting a list from your list provider, I know there's about 1 million of them out there, you can ask, not all of them allow it, but for generally a very minimal additional fee, you can get the permission to co-target those folks in digital channels. So in the file that they send you, you will get the information, of course, the address, but you will also generally get email and phone information, which will help your match rates on digital. And we have seen that from an acquisition perspective, drive performance kind of equally on both channels. Something that all of you can do because it's your file and you own it, unless your privacy policy says otherwise. But if you have any sort of house file and you want to target a renewal, that is something that is done very, very well. And you can do that basically across just about any of the channels you see here from the paid media perspective. So I would say that's a good example of kind of low-hanging fruit that I would really encourage all of you to try as you're looking to find ways, well, how the heck do I begin to integrate? I think that's a very good low-hanging fruit. You can see that despite lower spend year over year, the numbers that we really care about, gifts, revenue, donors, were up pretty dramatically. So definitely a great example. On the next slide, we have an example of another organization that this is kind of some channels within the programmatic space, but also showing how it integrated with direct mail as well. The tactics across the top are things within a programmatic part of a program. So this is a very, very data-driven way to purchase. And I think for this one, Liz, if I'm remembering correctly, we also did some like co-targeting of mail, but I could be wrong.
Correct. We did.
And so the great thing about the programmatic tactics at the top is by serving them through one partner, they can all speak to each other and feed off of each other. I also kind of want to call out the programmatic digital out of home. So if you're not familiar with what that is, think of any digital screen you see out in the wild. That could be a digital billboard. It could be the screen on your gas pump. It could be something in a doctor's office. That is a really great way to have like a very strong awareness play that is certainly going to have a halo effect across your paid media and your direct mail. But to make it work even harder, there is some technology that allows us to essentially put like a little geofence if we know that someone has been exposed to I think it's called exposed mobile retargeting. If someone has been exposed to something like a programmatic digital out of home ad, we can then retarget them on other digital channels just to then kind of follow up with an ask or follow up for more information. And of course, so you can see that the ask, the look and feel is very similar across channels. This was also a campaign where everything was timed really smartly. Liz has mentioned that a couple of times. That's really, really important. Something I want to mention a little bit about CTV and OTT. That is a tactic sometimes that it can be a little challenging to see as much directly attributed revenue to it, even compared to some other media channels, because it sits pretty high up the funnel. But what we really truly see is that when that's a tactic that's added in as part of an omnichannel strategy like this, it is super effective at getting folks into the funnel and influencing those lower funnel conversion rates on other tactics. So a really important takeaway there. I see a question that popped up about providing some guidance around timing. Are you, is the question more about like how to time things or like what order? I'm not sure if whoever this is, I don't know if they can go off mute and provide a little more clarification. I just want to make sure I give you the answer you're looking for. I'm not seeing anything come through yet, so we will try to go back to that. We'll keep moving, but if you could follow up with a little bit more context, we can make sure that we can definitely. Oh, I see someone coming off mute. Hi, Molly.
Well, thanks for calling on me. Yeah, so I'm thinking specifically about the direct mail. We usually use the nonprofit bulk rate mail process, and I've noticed that in the end of year, it can be a lot more variable than when we do it in the spring, when I think there's less of a volume of other nonprofits doing that. And so something that we think about a lot and have realized that we don't have a lot of control over is when those letters land. And so I'm just curious if you have strategies to make sure that everything is arriving in the right sequence, especially when adding in additional pieces like the email and the online channels and just additional levels of complexity.
Yeah, 100%. One of the biggest things out of our control is that mail system, right? So, yes. So especially during the fall to winter season of, when everybody has the most philanthropic things out in the wild, maybe think about not having direct mail lead and having some of your digital channels that you 100% have control over timing, have those lead. And it can be a lead in such as you are going to be having a mail piece come in to you soon. So if you start with some of those digital channels that you have more control over and just start easing into the campaign until you have a pretty good idea of when the direct mail will be in homes, and then you can actually start with all of the rest of the strategic timing of things. And it's really just re-envisioning a lot of that, and it can be very different different times of year, because obviously, as you just said, the mail gets a little bit slower during some very specific times of the year. So that's why we were talking about earlier, is really rethinking the entire strategy from start to finish. So if you know that there's a possibility that your mail could get a drag, then lead with some of your digital channels. Have always on all the time, all of your programmatic, all of your paid media, that can be on the entire time of your campaign. But for timing other things like emails or texts, you can kind of really have an idea of, hey, we're going to start with these two, knowing that the mail could be in within this window, and then follow up with the digital channels that you're going to end up with at the end of your campaign. Did that help?
Yeah, that helped a lot. Thank you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great question. The next couple slides are showing kind of a journey through the funnel for one of our clients that also does a really good job. I'm not going to walk you through every single thing on here in the interest of time, but this was a client that, to start, we were really only working on their paid media, but the relationship grew. We ended up collaborating more with direct mail, and so you'll see kind of all the channels integrated through here. But the takeaway was that within the first 3 months of that fiscal year, we grew new donor media revenue by 70% and had surpassed the total revenue from the previous fiscal. So this is just a really powerful use case for integration across channels. So you can see top of funnel, this is brand awareness that is getting people into the funnel. You can see influencer campaigns here, highlighting awareness, the work that this organization did. Your Google grant is great for awareness, upper funnel information on your program. And then again, just some other channels. And then if we shift to the mid funnel, you can see that everything remains really consistent. But in the mid funnel, this is where our clients are really asking someone to take a first action. So that might be fill out this form, it might be sign a petition, it might be consume this particular piece of content, whatever your objectives are for the campaign. This can be kind of customized to fit that. So we're really just asking them to kind of let us in. Start, we're not kind of asking for money right away, but just asking them to kind of give their information so we can put them into a new name nurture series. We can nurture them through some other channels as well. And then lower in the funnel, this is where the ask really comes in. So you can see this was integrated with direct mail, some other digital media channels, as well as email. Again, same look and feel, talking about where your donation is impacting lives around the world. And really just that consistency that Liz was talking about before. You can see it's, similar images, similar coloring. The look and feel is very, very consistent across paid media, across direct mail the entire time. And then I'm going to pass it back to Liz.
So we can talk about some quick wins to increase collaboration. So core audience segments. These are just some recommendations for discussion from a lot of the conversations that we've had with a lot of our clients or prospects. For acquisition, you really want to make sure that you're reaching new audiences through a coordinated channel strategy. Kind of talked about this throughout the webinar so far, is just really making sure that you have a plan for your channels. So like Molly, like you said earlier, if you know that there's going to be a drag on mail, have that in your strategy already to maybe start with some of those other channels and not always lead with direct mail. It doesn't always have to be the lead in any campaign. Cross-channel exposure to really build that recognition and trust, right? So I think it was originally what you had to see something 7 times before it kind of stuck in your brain. I think we're up to like 12 now because, again, so much information everywhere that we look, but really having the same consistent campaign feel throughout all of your channels is really going to help people, the more that they see it, to really recognize that, and it'll help build a little bit of trust. Test into what resonates, test. Please do not throw all of your eggs in one basket. So make sure that you're testing into what resonates, and then scale what performs, right? So if you have a really good win and, oh my gosh, this looks really good, scale it. Again, doesn't mean throw all those eggs in that basket either, but just making sure that you're growing it in a very smart and strategic way, so you can make sure that there's a balance across all of your channels as well. The very first thing that you cannot do is lop off a part of any of your channel strategy because something else worked. It has to be, it's not an either or. It's like what this whole thing is about, it's not either or, it's a yes and. Really making sure that we're connecting first touch experiences with the follow-up engagement. That has to also be a part of your strategy as well. There has to be follow-up, there has to be stewardship. You have to make sure that you're giving them that full relationship when you're starting with acquisition, and it's otherwise you're just going to have a one and done, and that's how acquisition tends to fail if we're not making sure that we're having the follow-ups and the stewardship as part of the entire strategy, which leads into retention. The better retention of donors are going to have that better experience. So extending it really beyond just the initial gift across the initial channel, just because somebody gave in a specific channel doesn't mean that they don't want to hear from you in other channels. So it's really keeping that top of mind as well. Using those multiple channels to reinforce the impact and connection. Everything that a donor sees does not have to be in their preferred channel. Everything that a donor sees also does not have to be about an ask. So it's really making sure that you're keeping your donors informed on whatever your mission is, that they are up to date on whatever your mission is, and really they understand the impact that they are making. And you could do that across multiple channels. Aligning that outreach to where donors are in their journey as well. That's super helpful. If somebody is just a brand new donor, you're going to want to work a little bit harder to make sure that you are working on retention strategies for them, which would be very different than how you're going to approach somebody that has been on your file for multi-years. And then making sure you are showing up consistently, not just during peak moments. This is a big one that we have conversations about quite a bit. Obviously, we know the last quarter of the calendar year is where the biggest peak tends to be for a lot of nonprofits. But if you are one and done after that, and they don't hear anything from you until the following year, you've probably just lost a good chunk of your donors, because you want to make sure that you're still top of mind for them, that you're showing up consistently, that your campaigns are consistent, and not just during the peak moments. Which leads into a perfect opportunity to upgrade your donors as well. If you're talking to them consistently throughout the year, it may not be a surprise if you then ask them for a little bit more, because they're now part of your organization and you've really worked on that relationship, right? So make sure that you're responding to their donor behavior, not just donor value. That's a very big thing, is you want to see if there's any other indicators that they have, or maybe some additional data tools that show you that maybe they have a larger capacity to give and they're not giving to you at that level. You can work on that, and you can work them into an upgrade strategy, which will really help create those opportunities that can reflect growing engagement as well. As we know, people that upgrade their giving and really stay on file longer to continue to give you more, that is a very core segment of your donors. So you want to make sure that you're leveraging all that you can there. Timing and context to introduce deeper giving. We've talked about that quite a bit throughout this, and really supporting the progression with coordinated messaging. I think that that needs to be very top of mind as we go into this whole new fiscal year for everybody, or calendar year, to really make sure that everything is coordinated. There's nothing worse than a donor getting a mail piece that looks like one thing and an email that looks like another, and now you automatically have confusion in their heads, even if they don't realize it, that it may not be the same organization. So that consistency is really important. And then the best of these is sustainers, really making sure that you're positioning recurring giving as part of a long-term relationship, sustainability, subscription, nice and easy way to make sure that they are continuing to do their impact. Omni-channel touchpoints is really big here, because most of your sustainers are obviously going to be in your digital donors, right? So making sure that you're using all of the channels. You can even use direct mail to have that lift to push them online to give. Create a nice landing page that really tells the story of why you want somebody to become a sustainer, and you can use all the channels to get them there. Really making sure that you're simplifying that path to conversion. Donation forms being the biggest thing here. If it's super hard to sign up as a monthly donor for your organization, odds of conversion are not great. But there's very simple things that you can do to make sure that that is a nice, simple, frictionless path for them to say, yes, check that box for monthly and just start becoming a recurring giving donor. And then really make sure that you're maintaining relevance through the ongoing engagement. Donors want to know why they should do what they do. That's why we have call to actions, right? So making sure that whatever you're asking is relevant, it is timely, and you are in all the channels that they need to be to make that educated decision to say, yes, I do want to become a sustainer.
And Liz, we had another question come in as you were asking that. What is your guidance regarding opt-in for text and email? If a donor provides their email or cell number, does that imply consent to contact them through those methods?
If you're having, it depends on it's a privacy policy. There's a few other things that go along with it, but the very, very high level answer to that is, if you have an opt-in for text, like on your donation forms or in your emails, that is giving you permission to contact them, just like it is for signing up for a newsletter with email. Same thing for texting. So if you have it worded cleanly and clearly that that is what somebody is signing up for, then yes, that gives you consent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would also just add that a lot of that varies very, very much, sometimes even by state, sometimes like by channel.
Yes.
So it's definitely something that you would want to research based on your organization, your legal team.
Your
I've
privacy
noticed
policy.
exactly, like there's a huge range
Yes.
in what clients will and will not accept as kind of an opt-in. So just something you'll definitely want to research more.
And then here's some segmentation opportunities, no matter your tools. It's not about more tools, because that's not exactly what we're trying to do. We're not trying to really complicate our lives here, but it's about using what you have more intentionally. So some of the foundational tools, these are for teams using like a basic CRM or very limited data. Because, I mean, let's face it, folks, we're not all on the same page with our tech, right? And that's okay. We just have to make sure that we are starting somewhere and that we are doing the best we can with what we have until we can grow into something better or a little bit more advanced. So what you can be using is your donor database, your CRM. That would be like your Razor's Edge or your Donor Perfect or whatever your CRM is, and get some of that basic reporting. And then your segmentation opportunities there are recency, last gift timing, frequency, how often they give, gift size tiers, whether they're a LIBUNT or a SIBUNT. So at least if you start small with segmentation, it's still a forward momentum, right? Like you want to make sure that you're doing what you can with what you have as your opportunities grow. And then for developing, for teams with a little bit more channel visibility, you can use your email platform, your digital engagement data, any campaign reporting, and that gives you some opportunities like more channel engagement. You can really tell where somebody is wanting to hear from you, email, digital, mail response, and how they're all working together. Their activity across campaigns, which we kind of talked about earlier, really seeing those moments of when they're engaging. First time versus repeat donor behavior. That's really going to help you create the strategy of how to steward your first time versus your already on file donors. And it really can give you some insight into that timing of engagement as well. So if you're seeing moments of lift or moments of repression, that's kind of your aha moment to maybe change some of the priorities or the strategies that you have within your channels. And then for some more of our advanced teams, these are teams that have the ability to use modeling or have a deeper analytics support. You can use your analytics tools in modeling, data warehouses, and the integrations that go along with them, predictive scoring, to kind of give you a much more targeted approach to your segmentation, which can give you those opportunities to find those donors with the propensity to give or to upgrade, or to, really work into that funnel of mid-major donors. Channel preference modeling, so you can kind of see where your donors prefer to hear from you, or what they say they prefer to hear from you, so you can kind of make sure that you have a deeper engagement in those channels with them. Lifetime value segmentation, that again is kind of really adding in more of your analytics tools to really find those pockets of donors that you might have left behind, but AI and their analytics tool says, that might be a really good pocket for maybe your sustainers. Because that's one thing that we have really noticed that kind of gets left on the table is that, we had a sustainer campaign and it only raised this small amount of money. Awesome, because you know what comes next? A rolling of that money. So their lifetime value really increases once you can get a sustainer on file. So it's really just making sure that you're looking at lifetime value, maybe not just their first time gift. And then if you have the opportunity within your tools, you can do some behavioral clustering. That comes really in handy when you have maybe a wider mission. Food banks, for example, obviously that's my bread and butter, like I told you earlier, so I have a little bit more experience there. But we have tools that can tell us if a donor has been giving to other nonprofit for education, or if they really are in for child services, then you can kind of cluster them and speak to them a little bit differently. So that's definitely a more advanced opportunity there. But make sure that you're at least starting small. So even if you're still in the foundational stage, you will eventually get to the developing and the advanced stages. And don't be afraid of any of this, because nobody's going to change or improve their program if they don't start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for staying for the presentation.
We got another question.
Yep.
Oh, we have questions.
We did have one additional
okay.
question come in. I just wanted to share this leave behind that we will. It's a guide that breaks down what the data shows when paid media and direct mail work together, and how the integrated approach can drive stronger acquisition, retention, and long-term value. And in the follow-up email today, we will share this guide along with the recording and today's slides. And we do have a few more minutes for questions. I see Jeff has one that just came in, but if you have any additional, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. But Jeff asks, let's see if I can get it here. I have a question regarding connecting direct mail and our social channels regarding content, story share versus news and events and awareness. Can you guys speak on that a little?
What I think you're asking, Jeff, and feel free to, I think if you can go off mute and clarify if I'm not answering it, but if you're asking about having a similar, oh, here you are. Hello.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
All right, beautiful. Thank you. Hi, Jeff Adam, Connecticut Food Chair, Creative Director here. I have a bit of a long-winded question, but I'll just
It's
try to
okay.
get to it very quickly. So as a CD, my main thing is authenticity when it comes to content and
Mm-hmm.
cohesiveness, and I think the two of that has been very successful here. We've been doing that model since we left an agency, and we're just doing it in-house. My question is when it comes to authenticity, so for our direct mail specifically, we have a director of story share, and her job is to go out and actually interview our neighbors and their stories and what they're going through.
I
She will
love that.
with those stories, give them to me, and basically it's my job to express those stories through our brand voice so they know it's coming from Connecticut Food Share. Now, direct mail is great because you have when people open it, they have time, they sit down and they actually read it and like, oh my God, like this is in my state, my neighbors, I want to do something about this. So
Mm-hmm.
the direct mail, it's very appropriate and you have a time to really connect from emotional standpoint, so on and so forth. Now, going back to, omni-channel, I think that medium and that tactic is great for that pull. But when we talk about outside of brand cohesiveness, paid media and social, I have a hard time trying to tell that story as far as content and making it cohesive across the board. So, for example, our social media is a lot about awareness
Mm-hmm.
and it's just news, what's happening, because things happen immediately, like government stuff, and we have to express that in our point of view.
Yep.
I mean, so there's a bit of a disconnectivity. So my question is,
Yeah.
I'm seeing content has to work together, but
Yes.
basically on our strategy of direct mail of what we're trying to do to tell the stories of our neighbors. And again, it's working very, very well from a donation standpoint. I mean, is it okay that that other mediums just won't work for that genuine story? You know what I mean? Like, I
I
don't,
think that's okay if especially if you're talking, Jeff, about like your organic social. You should
yeah,
not be delivering an ask almost ever on your organic social. I know that might be controversial for some, but the reality is folks are not going to always interact, comment, like share as much on a fundraising organic post as they would something else. So if you do that too much, you're going to end up doing so to the detriment of your organic page traffic. So I think you are spot on your organic social doing that. We have had a lot of clients, if we have a hero story of the month, we do this a lot with some of our food banks. We do this a lot in healthcare. We do this a lot in like human rights and human services. There
yeah,
is a story that is carried across every single channel. And what our process accounts for is we will do direct mail first because that, as to your point, you have the most real estate to tell that
yeah,
story and get in depth. Then we do email because you have to be a little bit less, and then we'll do paid media last so we can find just kind of like those most specific nuggets. And then we just make sure that like maybe more of the story pays off on the landing page. If you have a lot of patient stories or client stories, what I would really recommend is if you find someone who's comfortable, and I'm so jealous that you know someone in your staff that's going out and getting content, excuse me, from your own clients, that's huge. Consider asking them if they would feel comfortable doing like a direct to camera selfie style video. We have found those to be incredibly effective, not just for like influencers, but for folks that an organization serves, or even folks that work at the organization to talk about the impact of your donation. You'd be
yeah.
surprised at how powerful you can get an ask and the story across in like 30 seconds.
That
Um,
that's great to hear. Like our model right now is our direct mail, let it sit, and then we follow up with an email and basically, hit that, and then we'll do our SMS text, and it'll be the shortened version, if you will, to help. And those three hitting on all cylinders have been great. The video thing, they do sign off and say you have our permission. Some are more shy than others. The video part, I will bring to Mary, my director of story share, because I didn't even
mhm.
think about that. We're so paranoid of just getting the story right and
Oh, sure.
doing it
Yeah.
correctly. But my takeaway is what we're doing is fine. Obviously, I'm
Yep,
not going to do a story on a page, there's just some things aren't made for others. Uh,
Yeah.
100%.
so it
Yep.
sounds like we're doing all right. All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you.
I'll go back
Um,
up here if I can find it. All right.
Looks like
I have
looks
another
like
question too.
Rob had a question too. It sounds like you partially answered it already, but if necessary to gradually build an omni-channel strategy over
Yeah.
time, which elements or platforms do you recommend should be implemented first and in which order of priority? kind of half answered that. And yeah.
Oh. So implemented first in terms of like when they hit the market, as if you're talking about when you would develop them, you probably have to develop direct mail first just because of the lead time. Kind of despite the fact of when you can kind of control when it's in market. But in terms of timing, we have seen things be really successful when some of the paid media channels happen first. And I think a good rule of thumb is that a lot of our clients have evergreen paid search, which that is very about as low funnel as it gets. It generally can get right to the heart of an ask. But if you don't have, they've never heard from you before, you have low awareness, you don't want to just like invite them to get married before you go on a first date, right? So you need to have, I would say, something else first before a lower funnel channel like direct mail. And paid social is kind of interesting because it can kind of serve both masters, if you will. It can kind of bridge upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel all at the same time. So I would recommend that you, once you understand what the channels are that you're going to be able to afford, I would make sure that you have something, upper to mid funnel first, if you can, or launch them all together if you can. Otherwise, just kind of gradually start upper to lower funnel.
Yeah,
Did
and
you-
really making sure that you have the infrastructure to be able to steward and talk to your donors. If you don't have the capabilities for some follow-up emails to your digital donors that came on through whatever digital channel they chose, that's still a way to steward them. So it's really making sure that you're looking at all of the things, because direct mail, it kind of has its own built-in, because we've been doing it for so long. You send out an appeal, they get a thank you. Well, if we're not doing the same thing in all of the digital channels, we're kind of leaving money on the table there too. So if your question was more of like, which channels do we start with? Make sure that you have a way to thank your donor. So you want to make sure that email is included in that. And then what we found pretty successful is to make sure that you're starting with more of your tentpole campaigns anyway, your end of year, to where you can really see what kind of traction you're going to get within that time frame to kind of give you that indicator of what's going to work best. Is it social? Is it programmatic? Or any of the other digital channels?
Well, it looks like we just had one additional question came in. Let's see if we can get to it real quickly. Have you had success moving digitally acquired donors over to direct mail as part of an omni-channel program? If so, can you explain how you did this? When did you ask for the address and start sending them cultivation pieces? Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
For the most part, no. Unless they happen to give us their address, then we can kind of, roll them in. But it is a very, very, very small number of donors that are going to go on and give to you digitally and then convert to start writing a check. That's a very backwards step for them. So if you're looking for more of a stewardship, include them in newsletters, have that be part of your donation form, and let them know that, hey, we'll just keep you updated with news. That way they know that they're not going to be automatically rolled into a direct mail program if they choose not to. Because there are people that give digitally because they like that channel. They don't like direct mail. They don't want to get direct mail. We know the first way to really anger somebody is send them something that they don't want. So it's as a strategy, we do not try to roll them into direct mail. We're more trying to roll them out of direct mail into other channels. But on the off chance that it does happen, we do keep them in both channels. But if it's part of your donation form, if those are the things that you want to collect, like addresses and such, you can have that on your donation form is the way to get their address. You can send them cultivation pieces. And have a digital newsletter. So if you already have their information as a digital donor, which odds are good, you're going to have their email or something to contact them digitally. Make sure that newsletter is in a digital format. So you can either email it to them or send them an email to send them to your website to get more information.
Wonderful. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Laura, so much for sharing your time and expertise today. Thank you all for staying on and enjoying the session. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. The information here on this slide, but we'll follow up in the next 24 hours or so to share the recording, the slides, and our It's Either Or PDF guide. Thank you all so much. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful afternoon.
everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.